What's up, everybody? You're very welcome along to a special late night agenda. I'm joined by Mr. James Redmond. James, how are you doing, sir?
I'm marvellous, Craig. How's yourself? By the way, just to let the viewers know straight away, my hair is not like greasy in any way, shape or form. I did just get a shower, got to look presentable, and I never tried my hair in time. You know what I mean? Craig won't know about these problems, and that's fine. But at the end of the day,
James. I remember. I remember back in whenever it was having hair.
I remember those days, them beautiful days, man. Them beautiful days.
I still walk around
in the back all days. That's what you sound like. You sound like someone from
conditioner.
Texas. You sound like someone from Texas. In the back all days. Oh, no, tell me about it. Too much conditioner. Like Jack Grealish.
There you go. See what I mean? There's loads for us to get through, man. Loads. I'm talking about Newcastle now, fucking the Galactico FC.
And the always mad, lads. The money is crazy as well. Like, we've just been talking about it briefly off air, and we're just talking about in comparison compared to all the other owners. We talk about Manchester City being like at the pinnacle. We talk about Chelsea being up there. Look at that, people.
See that now? Look. So the black is Newcastle's value of their owners, and every other little piece of that pie chart is every other Premier League's owner. So yeah. What are you saying, James?
I was seeing how much of that is red. I mean, there's a few ways that you can look at it, you know what I'm saying? First of all, I'm sure a lot of us are thinking, how does this impact Liverpool in a certain space of time? I think in the short term, for example, this season, nothing. You know, like right now, Newcastle, as we speak, they've still got Steve Bruce, even though talks have escalated there, but they've not really had the best start of the season. And I just think to myself that, obviously, for you've got to take into consideration financial fair play. Now, there's also reports suggesting that could be gone, and there's others saying that could stay. Whatever. I believe Newcastle can then only go and spend around like 90 million. I say only 90 million, still a lot of money, but I don't think overnight that gets Newcastle from A to B. Of course, they could get a very good coach, which gives them a system, gives them a philosophy, then gives players a reason to go ahead and play for Newcastle United, especially if you get the right man who can convince players. And furthermore, that could then get them there as soon as possible. But I think before they start talking about the top four, which is what we're in most seasons, with a top four team, you've got to go ahead and maybe suggest, I'm thinking maybe 4 or 5 years before they get there. In terms of title contention, you're looking a little bit longer than that. But it depends what they do and when they do. If, for example, they've been linked with, like, you know, Eddie Howe, which probably for now would be a good step. And then they've been linked with Antonio Conte. And however realistic or unrealistic that is, you've just got to think Antonio Conte right now, that wouldn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like, it's like knowing a girl, you know, you love the girl, you know, one day you're probably going to go ahead and marry the girl, but it's just right now is not the right time. You've got no dough to take care of the girl, so it makes no goddamn sense. And also, on top of this, you're just not mentally prepared as a man. Does that make sense? So you've got to wait a while. So Antonio Conte is the right man, just not right now. So there's loads of variables, but what do you think, lads?
See, I don't know if you're old enough to remember when Man City were taking over, but I am. And I remember some of the batshit crazy signings like Robinho.
Oh, yeah, I remember. That was when, like, I started playing, watching football. That was like, well, Man City, they're no good, aren't they? You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're all right. Yeah, they're not too bad. They're paupers, though, compared to this crowd, James. Paupers.
Oh, God.
See, this is where it's mad, isn't it? Because the goodwill to Newcastle fans has been completely different to what we've seen when Chelsea were taken over, when City were taken over, because we all feel for the Newcastle fans and what they've been through. But how long before everybody starts saying, oh, look at these fucking money-hungry bastards, and putting them in the same... Because I like the Geordies, man. I have to say I do. And anyone who suffered through Mike Ashley, I feel them.
I would hate an owner like that. That you've got to sympathise anyone there, you know what I'm saying? Because he was literally, you know, imagine being owned by Sports Direct. Just imagine. You know, you're like, that's not ideal. That's not ideal in itself. And
it's basically Lonsdale, isn't
it? You're trying to sustain a Premier League club, as a respectable Premier League club. And listen, Newcastle have got heritage, man. They've got history. They've literally been associated with good football, top-class players. Look how many world-class strikers they've had. Even before I was watching football and whatnot as well. They've had some top-class number 9s. They've had some top-class players. They see some good goals. And right now, the only only glimpse that they've really got to hold on to is someone like St. Maximin and Willock from Arsenal, because he scores a few goals from the midfield. But they want to be beyond that, and they should. For the name that they are, they should be beyond that. I believe this is only a good thing. Now, then you go into the conversation about what do you think about oil money being put in. Well, at the end of the day, it happens, you know, like it happens with City, and we've saw... Of course, in the long term, it can change, but we saw that teams can still compete. Leicester won the league, we won the league, and even though we still spent money, it was nowhere near, not even in the same bracket about what City spent in their reign of getting Premier Leagues. So, it could be bad, it could be good, but at the end of the day, it means more competition for the Premier League, and regardless, Liverpool is still a bigger club than them. So, with the fact that FSG are making us so self-sufficient, we should get to a point where shouldn't really matter anyway, you know what I mean, if you're going off their judgment. So we'll see.
A lot of football fans, a lot of football clubs now worrying about the finances, but I've got something to help you out here, ladies and gentlemen. Get yourselves over to manscaped.com. 20% off, free shipping, WFM20. This applies to you as well, Saudi Arabia. If you want to hit yourself up, shave them nuts, you know, save a few quid. You have to buy in a football club, you know, you might need a few quid. Get yourself over to manscaped.com. And free shipping, performance package 4.0, waterproof, 7,000 RPM motor. We've got to get you sorted out with this, James, because, you know, it's all well and good me talking about what it's like, the freedom of having the air wafting between your legs. I've got it on the noggin, as you said earlier on, man.
I could only imagine.
You'll be walking around with like, I imagine you're walking around with a bit of a strut in your step anyway. I imagine you're kind of one of those type of lads. But with these, mate, with those clean nuts as well, knowing that you save 20%, they got free shipping, James. I can only imagine.
You're killing me, Craig. Usually, right, I'd be able to stay in like with a straight face. I'm all right with a poker face there. I couldn't.
I'm on the drinks, James. I'll be honest with you.
Get on that link, people. Come on, man. There's no better man who promotes Manscaped than the man right here. So get yourself over. Do you know what I mean? There's my info until I use it.
Someone says you're talking balls again. I have to, you know, they pay the bills. These balls pay the bills. What can I say? Look, there's loads I want to get through, James, and I suppose we should really talk about what I think you and I spoke about beforehand. Steve Bruce is getting a shot. There's no surer thing than that. You know, whatever. Gone. I think there was a poll, if I read it right the other day, 94% of Newcastle fans or something like that wanted Steve Bruce gone. But we were having a bit of a conversation beforehand about who could realistically come in. Now, you mentioned Conte and Eddie Howe, but there was another name that you'd said one of your mates threw at you, and I think that's interesting.
So the name that my friend threw at me earlier was Steven Gerrard being the next Newcastle United manager. And now a lot of people straight away would suggest that could be a good move, and in terms of him joining Newcastle, the next step for his career, because we've saw at Rangers, he's done a very impressive job. He took that league title off of Celtic, he put Rangers back onto their pedestal, even this season, where yet they're not undefeated, and they haven't done as well in Europe as they did last season. They're still top of the league, they're still doing the job they need to do, and Gerrard plays lovely football. He hasn't got Rangers as a back five, getting them to win the league. He's got them playing exciting football, even in Europe. They were outplaying teams and they were giving them a problem, and I just think with Gerrard and his coaching staff, which is always very important within a football club, I think at Newcastle that's exactly what they need, because they're going to back someone like Steven Gerrard, because you said it, not to take one of your points, but I'm going to do it anyway. He's a character. He's someone that the players will run for. He'll work for them. And if you're there being approached by a legend like Steven Gerrard, someone, for example, like Jude Bellingham that admired Steven Gerrard, and he's there talking to you about the philosophy and talking about all these players that we can now keep him and bring in because it's the Newcastle way, we can pay you a lot of money. That to me already makes sense. And you know, I mentioned Antonio Conte before and talking about, yeah, you can throw a lot of money at Antonio Conte and bring him in now, or a top class manager, something like that, but not right now. Does that make sense? It's not the time. Newcastle is still a relegation battle team. Get someone who can just slightly take them above that. For example, Graham Potter at Brighton. I'm not saying bringing him in at Newcastle, even though he'd probably be a good fit, but what he's done at Brighton, getting them to the Prem, keeping them in the Premier League on a very low budget, and making them play nice football. Their problem's always been not having a striker. Newcastle shouldn't have that problem no more, because they're going to be able to go and buy whoever the fuck they want when it gets to a certain stage. So I think that would make sense.
Yeah, I think this is a bit selfish of me, but I look at the Gerrard situation at Rangers and I think, right, good club, doing well up there, fair play. But if he was to go manage Liverpool, James, in 2024 when Herr Klopp leaves,
Yeah.
and look, we all hope he extends, and we all hope that Klopp will stays a little bit longer. But
it's
let's
looking
say
likely he's going to go.
Let's say Gerrard did go down to Newcastle, let's say, for 2 years, probably be a great bridge for Newcastle as a club to, stabilise themselves, attract some players across, and then a decent step for Gerrard to step up to us if he does rather well with Newcastle. Now, look, I'm clutching at straws here, I know, but I still think he needs that link, Gerrard, before he comes to Liverpool, somewhere else before he goes straight from Rangers into the job at Liverpool, which he probably will someday.
Yeah, listen, it'd be good to see him get that Premier League experience, but just to play a little bit of devil's avocado for you, my mate, I just think of it as, if Gerrard joins Newcastle and they're building a plan, because that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to get Gerrard in to build a philosophy. They're not just going to get him in for short-termism, because he hasn't really proven that short-term, even though at Rangers, but at that type of level. So I just think of it as, if he goes there and it goes well, for example, like Brendan Rodgers at Leicester, if Arsenal usually go in for Brendan Rodgers, they're going to get Brendan Rodgers. If they go in for Brendan Rodgers now, not really, because he's got a plan there at Leicester City, even though right now they're not playing the best football, but won the FA Cup and they've got better every season. There's something to invest into there. If Gerrard isn't given a reason to leave, by the time it gets to 2024, he could be very comfortable in a Newcastle job, competing for European places, being given a budget to go ahead and spend, being backed by the fans, as we know he will. He will be backed by the fans, because everything that he says is gold. And it's just that they'll be able to relate to him in some way on top of that. And I just think maybe it could delay his move to Liverpool, and then by then you don't know what we're doing. We could have a better manager, which is great, but I just mean, this whole dream that we've got of Gerrard coming to Liverpool, this could really put like a sort of, let's just say, a spanner in the works, because that's the way I could see it going.
Yeah, I'm still torn on the Gerrard's Liverpool thing, because you always have that fear, don't you, that it might not work out. You don't want his reputation tainted in any way, because he's fucking Stevie G, do you know what I mean? The man can walk on water. So it is difficult, but I have to say I'm intrigued to see how they go about this, because they're talking about steadily investing in Newcastle. So Amanda Staveley's front of the consortium. Older viewers might remember she was involved with DIC, who nearly bought Liverpool before Hicks and Gillette. So, or maybe it was when Hicks and Gillette were there. I can't remember. I know she fronted DIC, anyway, Dubai Investment Capital, who were looking to buy Liverpool at one point. She's finally got herself in the Premier League board seat, and I'm intrigued to see, one, how they go about spending. I think you said probably 90 million maximum budget at the minute, but how seriously FFP will be implemented, because there's two ways to do it. There's Premier League will obviously look at the spend, and then of course there's UEFA's pretend FFP that really doesn't exist. So I'm intrigued, and I am delighted for the Newcastle fans, but I honestly don't think it will take too long for people to start, getting a little bit pissed off, because we all love the Geordies. Fair play, great club, had some great battles with them over the years. Obviously, Keegan, Kenny, lots of managers went up there and did their thing as well with former Liverpool players. So I don't know, man. I'm wondering how long it'll take before people start putting them in the same boat. Yeah, is it success? Is that what it'll take? Because let's say if they spend a shitload of money and they don't win it, nobody's really going to be arsed. I think it's only really if they start having success that it might affect them.
Even look at Everton in many, many ways. They ended up getting billionaire owners, and everyone thought that was going to make a huge change in terms of the short-termism, and they seem to just be standing where they are. They brought in Carlo Ancelotti, and then even though Rafa's doing good for the, right this second, they could only spend a certain amount in the summer anyway. They bought, it seemed like...
Rondon.
Rondon, do you get what I'm saying? These type of players, whereas last summer, even though it never worked out, they were buying players like James Rodriguez on a free and stuff like this, bigger names. And I just think to myself, money doesn't always guarantee that you're going to be doing well, because you've got to be a self-sustained brand football. And Newcastle are massive, but at the same time, are they as self-sustainable as Manchester United? No. Liverpool? No. Arsenal? No. Because they're not on that level, and they're not supposed to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, when you look at their owners and who these people will likely know, do not be surprised to soon see a change to the sponsor. Do not soon be surprised to see people, more sponsors and the stadium change or stadium expansions, whatever it may be. And then that makes it more self-sustainable. But, and also you'll know they'll have the marketing side down to a T. They'll bring in players from certain parts of the world to grow the team there. But I don't know. It's it could go many ways. I don't know. We'll see in 3 years, and if they do well, I'm not gonna like them, Craig, because that means that's competition. You know, I don't like Manchester City. 10 years ago, wouldn't have cared about them as a kid. You know, you can suggest that, or well, a little bit longer, but either way, couldn't have cared. You get what I'm saying? They were not that great. They were not on our level. Newcastle right now, not on our level. Could be by 3 years time.
I know the price tag has been set for a while. It's 300 million quid, but for a Premier League club, and the phrase sleeping giant gets thrown around a lot, but I genuinely think with Newcastle there, with the fan base that they have, there is a lot of profit to be made from that football club. So I think buying them at 300 million will turn out to be an absolute steal. Sure, look at how much Liverpool has progressed in value since FSG took over. Now, granted, they did invest in the stand and Kirby, and doing up the club shop around it, doing up the area around, doing the Annie Road end, all that kind of stuff. But Newcastle, 300 million, that just seems really cheap to me for a stadium. What they'll already hold, I think, over 50k.
Yeah, well, listen, that's just what I think Mike Ashley got to a point where he had to sell that club, and it fell through before. Like, let's be real, it weren't Mike Ashley's fault why it actually went through, and he had to get rid of it. The fans were on his back. It weren't good for business. Him being associated with that club, it just made more sense to let go than stick by it. Actually, someone just said something very interesting in the comments. Yeah, shout out to Jason Goldsworthy. He seems to be a member on the channel as well, so big up himself. He goes, Shearer, just the thought for manager. And this has happened before for people who do not know. Like, that he's been the manager and didn't he get relegated with them, and it didn't really go well. But do you think, if he's gone away and if he's gone ahead trying to improve on his coaching game, and the fact it probably would bring a sense of just a sort of feeling and attachment back to the club, do you think that could be a decent little route to go down, or do you think they need to go elsewhere?
Yeah, I think they'd be mad to go down the Shearer.
Do you think they'd be crazy to go ahead and do that? Yeah, I heard that myself, to be fair.
I think somebody in the chat said Conte's probably a dead cert because he's out of work at the minute. Newcastle would, and Eddie Howe, as you mentioned, James. I think that's probably the sensible option. But could he attract players? With Antonio Conte, his reputation. He's worked with Lukaku, won the league with Inter, done lots of stuff, came over with Chelsea, did really well. Probably is a very good choice to get them through. He mightn't be a 10-year manager, but he might, bring them from the club they are now and establish them a little bit more and get some household names there. That's what Newcastle needs, and that's why I think. You see, I'm not someone who necessarily puts Eddie Howe on this pedestal as a top coach. He's done some great things, don't get me wrong, but I do think he's slightly over-glorified in many senses and over-hated in many others. That being said, I see Steven Gerrard or Graham Potter being the perfect sort of fit for the stage that Newcastle are at right now. Not to get them to winning Premier Leagues every year and doing a Sir Alex Ferguson and a Pep Guardiola, but get them to the stage where then Antonio Conte or whoever's available at that time can then fill in and take them to the next stage, because that's what they really need. That's the number one thing. That it's about taking baby steps, walk before you can run. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I'm going to maybe suggest a manager like them. But I can understand why people would say Antonio Conte as well. I just don't think, why didn't Carlo Ancelotti work out at Everton? It's because, he's never really worked at that level, and, he needs a certain level of... He's not used to shopping in fucking Poundland, is he?
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. It's even Pep Guardiola, he admits it the other week. If you give me shit players, I'm not going to be able to do much, because my style of football takes a certain level of player to be able to execute it perfectly, and I just think it's like that with Conte.
I want to come back to Newcastle in a minute, but I want to talk about something that's been really pissing me off. I hate international breaks at the best of time, but the situation with the Brazilian boys and how late they're going to have to come back because of the way the fixtures are scheduled.
Explain it to me.
So they're playing really, really, really late on the Thursday, and they'll be starting to come back on the Friday. So they're only going to be back hours before Liverpool travel to play Watford in London. So most likely, very unlikely that we'll have Fabinho, that we'll have Alisson, that we'll have Firmino available for the game. So
time for Irish Casillas to step up again.
There you go. Better him than fucking Adrian anyway. But it's a piss take because managers hate giving their players up at international breaks at the best of times. Now you've got a pandemic. Now you've got a situation where we're going to end up losing these players from a club game. So it has now affected our Premier League. And that's before we get into the conversation around us having a 12:30 kickoff. after an international break away against Watford as well. It just seems like they're taking a piss, mate, to be honest with you.
You always get things like this, don't you? And obviously, you're not just losing to
Sorry, Firmino wasn't called up. My apologies. It's just Fabinho.
So Firmino will be sound. Firmino will be good. Do you know what? Even though Alisson and Fabinho have been more important to the side as of late, I do think it's important to have someone like Firmino just as an option, someone who can unlock the game if he's not going to start, and also Klopp just has that choice. But let's just look at it this way. That means we're going to have to see Kelleher play, and that means we're going to have to see probably Naby Keita or someone step in alongside Curtis Jones and Henderson, because we don't have Thiago. Or is Thiago back now? I swear it's Trent who's back and not Thiago, because I know one of them's back.
Sorry, man, there's a comment there that's making me piss myself.
I was a comment. I was thinking, wait, is he laughing at me being dead confused about who's injured? No, I just think to myself, it's not terrible, but it's not ideal either. We should still go out and beat Watford, is the point that I'm trying to make.
Let me just pull this one up on screen 1 second, because it's brilliant.
I'm curious, I'm not going to lie.
There, greetings from Florida. Not a Liverpool fan, but my daughter loves Gru, and she requested I turn him on whenever he's live. Do you know what? It was really funny because we were in Florida 3 years ago. We were there with the kids, and we were in Minion Mayhem, the ride, and Gru was up on the big screen. And my young lad just looks at me, looks up at the screen, and looks at me. So yeah, hello to sunny Florida.
I'd be wrong to say there's not a resemblance. I'd be wrong.
There absolutely is, man. I get it.
And it's beautiful. And it's beautiful. Oh my God, Craig, rock that style, my man. Because you know what? It's brilliant. No one rocks it like yourself.
I wish I would be as wealthy as Gru, or be an evil
people
villain.
People might say that you're the B-Tech Gru. I think Gru is the B-Tech Craig.
Better than being the B-Tech Goldbridge, because I get thrown at me most of the time, to be honest with you.
With the green screen and that.
Yeah, like he invented green screen, so it's very important that we point that out. Like, no, to be fair, I actually chatted with Mark the other day. We're going to do a bit together ahead of the United game at the end of the month, which I'm looking forward to, because I feel like we owe them a kicking, man. I really do. I feel like United are, I don't want to say poxy, but how have they gotten the same amount of points as all those other clubs underneath? My head thinks, right, they lost this game, they drew that. I don't understand how they're as high up as they are. Like, they seem to be playing shite and somehow are breathing right down our throats.
They're so close because they've got individual brilliance. Listen, one thing good players will get you, it will get you points in games where it's close. And there's not one game this season. I mean, Leeds United where they looked open, even the Newcastle game where they won 4-1, but there was still even stages in that game where the performance wanes at what it should be for a team of that quality. There's still not a style of play. Ask most United fans this. They don't see a system there, which after 4 seasons with one coach, that's getting a bit of a problem. Even Ollie says he doesn't look at the intricacies of coaching because he just doesn't think it's worth it. I mean, very easy to say when you're getting very, £100 million players. Every summer, Ronaldo's, Sancho's, they haven't played anyone in the top 6. The next, however many games, are going to be a really big test. Most of their wins have been last-minute winners and scrapes, and also they've lost in the Champions League. They've lost in the League Cup. They still should be doing more with the quality they've got. Everyone's talking about their squad depth. Why does City go ahead and win the League Cup every year? Because they've got good squad depth. Why haven't United gone out and done the same when they've got probably, on paper, just as good squad depth as City do?
I loved it the other day, by the way, when we seen Ferguson was caught out chatting to Khabib Nurmagomedov about the fact that Ronaldo should have started the game. And then the club come out and reiterate straight away that they've every faith in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So do we, by the way. All us Liverpool fans have every faith
absolutely.
in Ole.
Ole in, baby. Ole until the day we die, because I know that he's not going to be doing any Sir Alex Ferguson's at that club. You know what I mean? He might, if he stays there for 10 years, he might win one major trophy, but even still, there's no plan there, Craig. It'd be so depressing being a Man United fan if it was me. Thank goodness I'm not. But if I was, I'd be watching that football week in, week out and thinking this is a shambles. And then there's not really any signs that Ole's going to be getting sacked anytime soon, because you've just said it. He's doing enough. He's just about there. He is where he should be. You know what I mean? As long as they're getting top 4, he's still got his job.
I look at United like this under Solskjaer. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, but They start the game, and then they eventually, when he figures out that his tactics aren't working and nobody's gelling, just keeps emptying forwards off the bench until eventually he's got 7 of them on the pitch.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. And then hopes that something happens. Ronaldo does something, Fernandes does something, they get a penalty. Because they don't have any game plan. They've got some really good players. Like, I really rate Mason Greenwood. Obviously, Ronaldo coming back will give the club a big lift. Bruno Fernandes, good player. David De Gea, great goalkeeper. Varane, Maguire. They've got some good players there. But how on earth the hierarchy at that club keep looking at Solskjaer and go, it must be because he's the yes-man, James. It has to be.
No, well, he's not going to come out. He's not going to question them. When they do something wrong, for example, like the Super League, they're not really going to call them out or whatever it may be. They know they're safe, and they know that with his heritage at the club, you know, the die-hard Manchester United. And also, United are that huge and that big. As long as they're in the Champions League and in, you know, playing the best teams in the world, so they can still promote, oh, we're going to be playing Real Madrid in the quarter. They're just a promotion. They're just someone who... You know, that's why do you think they bought Ronaldo? Because with all due respect, Ronaldo, absolutely one of the greatest players of all time. Still a very, very impressive player with the fact he's been able to adapt his game, go to number 9, still gets the goals he does. But he's not even, in my opinion, top 3 players in the league. You know what I'm saying? I like, that's just my opinion. And the reason why I'm saying that is because... You know, he even went to left wing against Villarreal for the final half an hour, and he's just not the same Ronaldo, and he shouldn't be. He's 36, and again, I want to give credit for the fact he's still doing bits as a number 9, but I don't think he's that much better than Cavani. I think they play very similar, and they both get very similar numbers. If you look at chance creation, goal conversion percentages as well, it's very similar, and the type of goals that they score, the goal poachers. You don't see Ronaldo dribbling past players no more and stuff like that. It's just, I don't see United as being so serious. That's the way otherwise they would have sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They would have went ahead and got Carlo Ancelotti off Everton, like the way Real Madrid did, or they would have got Antonio Conte, or they would have got any other manager. Name me a team in the top 20 that'd take Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Mate, he wouldn't even get fucking interviewed.
I bet you Newcastle wouldn't even take him. I
said this to the United fans the other day. Like, with all due respect, the only reason he even got an interview or a look in was because he was a former club player. His CV, Molde and relegating Cardiff. That's not going to get you the second biggest club in the world, probably.
He's been a manager for like 14 seasons. He's been a manager longer than Pep Guardiola. For people who don't know, he's been a coach longer than Pep Guardiola. And people think he's this young, new manager. Like, maybe not at the level of Pep, but he's not a young manager. He's been doing this. Do you get what I mean? Like, you just mentioned Cardiff City many years ago. He's just not... He's not showing anything that he's good enough. United should be getting into the top 4 with the players that they've got, but look at the context of their wins. Not many of them are really all that convincing, but he always has this thing just that does enough, and Craig, it is amazing. It's the most sexy quality that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can possess. The fact that he's somewhat of a club legend because he scored a few last-minute goals and whatnot in big games, and then on top of that, because everyone invests into that, and then on top of that, does win nothing in 4 seasons, doesn't have a style of play, but still does enough to warrant a place in the job, and the fans be okay with it. It's amazing how their expectations have dropped, and people won't like me saying this, but it's just a matter of the fact. If Manchester
you don't
United,
do if ands or buts. You don't do if buts.
Don't do if ands or buts. Don't do if buts or maybes, and we only do absolutes. And listen, it's the same now as it was then. It's just, and that's the way I see Manchester United. Full stop.
The part of you that killed me on that one, mate, was, what are you laughing for, Chris? That's the part that...
With the high pitch. It was the high pitch as well, the high pitch voice. It was like, why are you laughing, Chris? Because he was laughing, lad, and I was thinking, I'm trying to spit some actual bars here, and he's just there pissing himself.
I'd say Mina Raiola somewhere now, lad in hand, stroking away, thinking, yep, Newcastle, here we go, here we go. 50 lads lined up, ready to go to Newcastle for 2 years.
Already into school. They're already on the phone now.
Did you see it? We can't talk about names. You know, we're going to be very careful. But let's just say there was a Brighton player arrested and released on bail for a report of sexual assault in a nightclub.
Did you see the player who was linked with it, though?
I did, but, you know, we've got to be careful about what we say here. The papers have published pictures of it. Let's just say we've been linked to the guy. I think maybe that's... Yeah, that's probably the best way to have it.
Brighton midfielder. That's the furthest I'll go as well. But either way, I mean, you're seeing it a bit more now, and it's a bit of a mad topic to touch on, but like, I think it's always better to give people the benefit of the doubt until it's like the actually
100%, because it's a serious allegation. Like, if that's false, that's going to stick with them forever.
Exactly. I even say about Sigurdsson, even if it does get sorted, this situation, because I still don't think it is from my knowledge, like, it still damages his reputation. You talk about these footballers who only have the cycle of getting a lot of money when they're actually a player. When they're not a player no more, they rely on their image, they rely on certain things. Sigurdsson's image, it's really not the same. No, I don't know what it's like where he's from, maybe it's still fine, but like, in terms of here, where he's been established as a top player, it is going to be affected. So it's just a shame that it gets so much light when there's not a hell of a lot of evidence. Does that make sense? But of course, if he has done anything, then fuck him, because that's obviously not good either.
Yeah, I mean, Connor brought up in the chat there, Shed Evans a few years ago, similar thing, and his was eventually overturned. And, it happened with one of the actors in Coronation Street as well. It happened with Craig Charles as well, if my memory serves me correct.
If my memory serves me correct, I swear Ronaldo had like a case or something that was thrown in his way. And you've got to bear in mind, these footballers...
Catherine Mayorga was the lady with Ronaldo. I think it was a Las Vegas hotel or nightclub or something like that.
Like, it just makes you think that these people do get money, like there's a chance for them to get money in these type of things, being paid off and whatnot, and there's not really much. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of seedy shit that can go on behind the scenes, where it's just like, you don't know what really happens, man. Does that make sense? So, until you get like a legitimate answer from the courts or whatever it may be, that's when you can talk about it. Until then,
must be difficult for anybody though in that scenario who's wealthy. Let's say any athlete, musician, male or female, both ways. It must be very difficult to know who you can trust, man. And if let's say you're a female athlete and you're talking to a lad or vice versa. Must be so difficult, mate, to know who's trying to set you up. Because, again, I'm old enough to remember the tabloids setting up footballers almost on a weekly fucking basis. Yeah. When I was growing up with harems of ladies there waiting for them and stuff. It's, as I said, innocent until proven guilty. Just wanted to touch on it because I seen the headline today. And, again, all allegations, innocent until proven guilty, 100%, all of that. But to get back to the Reds, mate, what do we make of the start of the season? We touched on it last week. Got a difficult game against Watford coming up, and then an ISL Champions League game coming up against Atleti, who we owe them to. Let's be honest, we owe them a beat.
Well, we've actually got a few. Thankfully, I've got the fixtures just right on my tab open already, so I want to look at the next few fixtures, because let me tell you why they're actually harder than what we're maybe anticipating. So we touch on Watford, no Fabinho, no Alisson. That already makes it much more difficult after an international break. Also, by the way, a Saturday 12:30 kickoff. Away from home, like all these factors, it's not an easy game. Watford, which we should go ahead and win, and still should go ahead and win, that's a much harder fixture now. Then you've got Atletico Madrid on the Tuesday. We know about Atletico Madrid, or they're like the Chelsea of the La Liga, a very difficult team to break down and beat. Then you've got Manchester United. And I'm only going to do these next 6 because they're all quite close together. Manchester United, I shouldn't even need to explain why that's a hard game. Then we've got Preston in the Cup. Yes, an easier step back in terms of intensity, but we've all said as Liverpool fans, I'm sure you're the same, Craig, I want the League Cup this season, or I want a League Cup run. We should want to go ahead and win trophies. Then we've got Brighton, who have had a great start to the season, and then Atletico Madrid again. Them 6 games, to me, we should say that we could go ahead and win all of them. But you take into factor, we've just drew 2 games. This is why I was even more pissed off about the Brentford game, that we dropped points in the City one, because you took the lead twice. And even though City are a very good team, rightly so, you still kind of bottled it. You get what I'm saying?
Mate, I'm fucking fuming. I'm fuming that Salah goal, like the one against Spurs, wasn't the winning goal.
That should have been the winning goal.
Still hurts.
If there was anyone, that should have been the winning goal. It's like Sturridge's goal in the Europa League final. That should have been the winning goal, or a part of a winning side. It's a joke, but it makes all these... You've got to beat Watford now. You've got to beat Manchester United. You've got to beat Brighton. You can't afford to be drawing these games. if we are to sustain a proper title challenge where it looks like we're going to go ahead and win the league. So, like I said, if we beat Brentford like we should have, fine. If we drew against City, say if we beat Brentford and drew against City, there's not as much pressure on these games. You can at least draw one of them. Now I think you've got to win all three of them. All them 3 Premier League games. Do you get? And at least one of the Champions League games. And like I said, I want us to win the League Cup, so you've got to win that as well.
I swear we're fucking jinxed. We're getting new manager bounces against teams. It seems like every time we got to play someone who's in shit form, they sacked the manager
as well.
Yeah, they sacked Xisco. Yeah.
Wow.
And brought Ranieri.
Sack a manager every. Hey, we'll see if Ranieri stays until they play us. They sack a manager every 2 weeks. Yeah, and with Ranieri, he's like a proper passion manager. Do you get what I mean? So he'd be like, boys, I will get you pizza if you get me clean sheet. I will get you pizza. Do you remember when he done that with the Leicester team? He's like, I will get you pizza, my friends. And it's just, he's not even Italian, is he? That's really bad of me. But
he is. Ranieri's Italian, isn't he? He is.
Is he Italian?
I'm fairly sure he's Claudio Ranieri. It sounds pretty Italian. Yeah. We'll go with Italian.
It actually does. He actually does, to be fair. But yeah, we all that can go either way. Really, we should win. That's my conclusion on it, Craig. Like, just without trying to say too much and jinxing us, we should still win that game. Whatever 11 without Fabinho and Alisson compared to their 11, I'm not really taking any excuse. If we lose, we're not going to be sitting there saying, Ranieri masterclass. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not going to happen.
No, we're not. You're right. We'll be fuming about it. Somebody in the chat wanted a quick word on Mohamed Salah's contract situation. And again, James, seeing the Newcastle takeover, more money in the sports. You know, every week that goes by, mate, I'm getting more and more nervous around the Mo situation because, like you, I can't. There's no excuses here for the owners. Whatever we talk about them not signing players, or this is one that they have to get done. They just have to. There's going to be no get out of jail free card on this one if Salah doesn't extend.
There should be a riot. There should be a riot. Like, not just a social media one. Like, Salah is just one of them you don't let go. It's like letting go of Steven Gerrard. It is. Because even though I hold Gerrard in a higher prestige, I can absolutely understand why someone from another part of the world would put Mo Salah in a higher prestige. You know, he's won Premier Leagues, Champions Leagues, and been a massive part in them, by the way. I really do understand why you put him on that level. To let go of a player of that magnitude, a player that loves Liverpool, don't get it twisted. Before he joined Liverpool, he wouldn't shut up about us. You know what I mean? Like, he's a Liverpool fan deep down, I think. And since joining, he's fulfilled a sort of, you know, a dream to come to a big club, be the main man at the big club. And I think now he knows that staying at Liverpool outweighs anything that he would do if he was to move to Real Madrid or PSG or friggin', you know, let's not forget, why do a lot of players leave teams? Like Mbappe wants to go to Real Madrid. He's around fucking Messi and Neymar, but it's because he wants to be the main man. He knows if he goes to Real Madrid, that's the proper step up because it's a big team and he can be the main man. There is characters in this sport. Salah is a character, and that is why, you know, even that interview that he done a few years ago, and he asked the question, like, and it's not cockiness, it's just simple belief in himself. It was like, who's quicker, you or Sadio Mane? And he was like, over a short distance, I think myself, and over a long distance, I think myself also. And do you know, just that type of attitude to that you feel like you're just better than everyone else.
Was he always Spanish?
Probably not. Probably weren't, but he has like that sort of higher pitched, like I don't know,
he's so
like, you know
chill,
what I mean? Like,
he's so zen,
that's it. He's
so
laid
chill.
back. He doesn't give a fuck, and he works hard, man. So I just think to myself, you've got to give him a new contract. I sold it to you last week. Individual awards, team awards, what he does off the pitch, what he does on the pitch. He's the perfect player to have in your team.
He is, and look, as I said as well, this isn't a good time. This is good timing for FSC because if they look at other players in the dressing room, might get a little bit annoyed. Well, they can't. Van Dijk, new deal. Alisson, new deal. Trent, new deal. Robbo, new deal. Fabinho, new deal. So nobody's got a mind if they break the wage structure for Mohamed Salah because they know that this guy is going to be looked back on in 5-10 years, James, is, and rightly so, a club legend. And a club legend in a club full of legends.
Exactly, but even like Virgil van Dijk knows he does not bring the level of merchandise to the club that Mo Salah does. That's a fact. Same with Mane, same with Alisson, same with Fabinho, same with Trent. All these players who have probably in their own ways at the most equal part of our success. It's not just Salah. He plays in a very good team around some very good fucking players, and in their own way, when you miss them, like we've saw when we've missed Trent, the creativity that isn't as much there in the side. We see when we lose Alisson, we see when we lose Virg. But Salah brings all that more off the pitch, and he's still doing it. He came in 2017, and he hasn't looked like he's stopping. Like, do you know what, Craig? I want to ask you a question. Do you think he can outperform the way he did in that first season? Because he's on course, on form.
That's a tough one, man.
I think he's got 9 in 10 with 4 assists.
For me, it's difficult.
When he played Chelsea and City?
What did he score? 44, 46 in that first season all in?
Yes,
I don't know, it was in the mid-40s. That was just ridiculous. I think maybe...
That was the season he broke the Premier League record as well with 32.
I think, yeah, it's difficult because you could say that teams have figured him out now, but I don't think...
Oh, hello there, everyone. Well, Craig's gone. I don't know if that means his phone has died or whatever it may be. That does mean I'm going to be having to take over the show. A little bit of improvisation, what we love to see. I might as well read the chat, man. Do you get what I'm saying? Because I've said my piece on Mo Salah, and just until Craig comes back, like I will just echo it again. Mo Salah is so important. I took over. Don't you worry. I took.
Good man. I don't know why just booted me off.
Why am I the postman? Why am I the postman? Because I always deliver, baby. You know the score. Sorry, Craig. I was just going to ramble on about Mo Salah again, so I'll let you carry on.
Someone's saying pay your bills. Motherfuckers, I'm in Spain.
He's on holiday, man. Cut him a little bit of slack.
I'm in Spain on holiday, hiding in the kitchen of the house we rented, pretending that I'm not working.
Having a belter.
Yeah, it's fucking cracking, man. I won't lie to you. Seen a few people ask me about it in the chat. I've been flexing a little bit, sending people a few fuck you pictures, basically.
So you've worked hard for it?
It's it. I tell you, it's the gas so nice. I'm almost afraid to touch it, James. It's one of these, I shouldn't be in it. I feel like I won a competition.
I'd be the same. I'd be like, that's too much money. That's too much money, man. we can't test that. And then I'd just go and sit on the balcony where there's not an expensive close to me.
Yeah,
I'll bring my own chair so I don't break the chair.
Oh yeah, I'm not touching that in here, honestly. I'm afraid to even turn on the oven. It's fucking too nice, this house for me. But yeah, it's nice to get away. I needed it. And this is the first year. I've been pulling this shit for 7 years with my missus now, 8 years, where I go away in international breaks. And this is the first year she's copped why we go away at this time of the year.
Nah, you need it though, man. You need them refreshes, you need them restarts at the end of the day. Just a few days, and look, you're out on holiday and you're still working, so it's not like you necessarily stop them, say the least. But it's just even a change of scenery and just a better way of life for a couple of days. It's just nice, and it's what we deserve when we work as hard, when people like yourself work as hard as you do. So no, fair play, mate, fair play.
No,
I'm jealous though. I'm jealous as fuck. Like, lads, you sent me that video, I was like, and then I looked out on my window and I was like, you know what I mean? One of them ones.
I think you need it though, man, just to break up the monotony of everyday life. And look, I can't stand international breaks anyway. I'm not somebody that watches much international football, so I couldn't really give a fuck about it. But anyway, we were talking about Mo. Sorry, before I got booted off the internet here. We were talking about Mo, and look, what are we talking? 330, 380 are the numbers being thrown around for apparently what would get Mohamed Salah to sign. Now, we know his base wage now is rumoured to be 200 grand plus bonuses. And there's been talk that the new contract would be incentivised. So, look, it's easy for us as fans to say give him what he wants, but if you're going to break it for anybody, this is it. And I know the worry is if he signs a 5-year deal, it'll bring him through till he's 36. Mohamed Salah strikes me, James, as a Milner type fella. It will, like Ronaldo, he'll still be around the 36. Look at the, as you said, he's got abs on abs. He's ridiculous. So I don't think there's nothing to worry about from that regard.
He takes care of himself like the best of them, and he's very disciplined. And another thing as well, one thing we've saw, he's very reliable. He doesn't get injured. So in terms of like, this is why I wouldn't get Neymar for Salah, because even though Neymar might be a technically better player or whatever it may be, he's not as reliable. He's not going to play 38 games of a season as well as the extra competitions. He's going to play the majority of them. He's going to score in the majority of them. There's not many players in world football who is as effective as Salah, and I've said it for a while. He's the best in that position and has been since he's probably joined the club. And one thing that I will also say, he's only getting better. There's no reason. Let's even say he only fulfills 3 good seasons out of them 5 seasons that's worth it for me, because a Salah getting better for them 3 years, he's still going to be sound when he's 34, 35. He might not be the same Salah, but you're probably going to still benefit more keeping him than what you would offloading him. And also in that time, it gives you a bit of time to try and bring up someone from the academy. It gives Kate Gordon, who by then could be a top-class player, a bit of time to develop. It just makes sense to me.
He'll be watching Salah. He'll be learning about nutrition. He'll be learning about how he looks after himself between seasons, and then on the training pitch as well. Look, much like Ronaldo now at United. There's much more to these type of signings.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, it's
like, do you know if a Salah hater came onto the stream right now, there's not one thing you'd be able to say that could convince me otherwise. Because I know there's nothing. There's literally no reason for Salah to go. Not whatsoever.
And he doesn't even. Honestly, sometimes you get the impression that the player's angling for a move away. I don't even get that with him. He looks settled to me, man. He looks happy. He looks like he knows he's at a club that he's worshipped by the fans. He could, you could ask for a better manager than Jurgen Klopp. And, I just think his family are settled. And look, it's hard just to know, because footballers map out their careers, and they're relatively short careers. And he's played in Italy. He's played in the Premier League.
Of course.
Maybe he fancies a spell somewhere else. I don't know, but I don't get the feeling that even if he does, let's say we sign him for 5, so he's here till he's 36. Even if he moves on at 33, 34, I think the club still get a relatively good sum.
No, of course. And you know what? With certain players, you just should get to a point where it shouldn't matter. I said before, Salah should be in that conversation with Gerrard in terms of how we hold him as a player. It gets to a point where you probably shouldn't care about even getting that that value back, whatever you spent or whatever you let him go for. Because even though it's ideal, especially with the ownership of FSG, it's just, again, what you're going to get. Does the reward outweigh the risk? And his rewards and the rewards that he's going to be giving us over the next few seasons, I feel is going to just outweigh anything else. And I don't see a player in world football, not even Mbappe, not Haaland. I don't think anyone in world football is going to replicate what Salah's been able to do for us in the best league in the world, this consistently for this much time. Like, I'm sorry, I'm willing to invest into Salah a lot. In case you don't realise, people.
Yeah, get it done, fuckers. Get it done.
Get it done, motherfuckers. If you don't understand it in my Scouse accent, I'll tell you in the American one.
An Italian one and a Spanish one as well.
Yeah.
You can bust them all out. I've a question for you, and I put this to Paddy Murphy and Chris Dunnage the other day when they were on the channel as well. For me, it looks like we're going to lose one of Mane or Firmino. I think that one of them will get a contract extension, one of them might move on. In your mind, who do you think, 1, is the most valuable, or 2, the most likely to perhaps move on? Or we could maybe that's not fair. Most valuable, and who do you think we could replace easier? Because a lot of people say Firmino's irreplaceable. Or Sadio. I think Sadio's a tougher one, personally.
That's a tough question. It depends, because in terms of who's more valuable, I'd honestly put them in a similar bracket, like 40 to 50 million by the time they leave, maybe 40. I don't know, like just sort of around there. So I think you'd be getting similar money for both. You probably could maybe edge more for Firmino just because it's a little bit fancier. But otherwise, I just think you're getting a very similar level of player. Of course, they're both very different. In terms of who's harder to replace, that's such a hard.
I'll give you my thinking. My thinking is that we have Jota at the club. And he's not a like for Bobby Firmino. Of course he's not, but he does a lot of the good stuff that Bobby Firmino does. Doesn't have the flair maybe that Bobby has, but I can see Firmino maybe going somewhere like Atletico Madrid for a few seasons under Simeone. I could see that as a move that might happen. But I can't, I think Mane, for me, I know he's not in a good moment at the minute, but I love his standing start pace. He can just fry a man over 3-4 yards, just leave him dead. And I don't know many people around there who can replicate that and his relationship with Mo. Because people like to make that they don't get on, man. But for me, they're always fucking hugging each other. They look like they get on to me.
100%. They're just winners. And they don't really... The two people who don't really care about what the outside world thinks, so they probably don't even address it, which is more than fair enough. But one thing I'm going to call you out on there, you said Mane and his pace. I think one thing that goes... Because Firmino, flair, skill, very good on the ball. And that's just natural to him. I feel like pace goes... I think what Mane has goes before what Firmino has. And what Firmino has just stays longer. So I just think if you're looking at sustainability over a longer period of time, Firmino would make sense. But if you can find a way to keep both, honestly, I'd say keep both. And not just because of nostalgic reasons. I think Firmino was still important in the fact that you could probably still use him as a midfielder, you could still use him as a forward. And then Mane's important because we still haven't really got someone who's a direct replacement. It looks like Jota might be the new striker as far as we've seen. We haven't really got someone over on that left-hand side, and I'd love someone like a Pedro Neto or whatever it may be, or a Rafinha. I don't care, like just someone who can go in there, add a little bit of quality to that side, but even if they're not quite ready, you can still rely on Mane there, and squad depth is better than everything, and this is why I always preach on squad depth, because it puts you in the conversations for League Cups, it gives you the best chance, and that's what it's about. It's about giving yourself the best chance to go ahead and win the major trophies, and that's why I'd say keep them, because whether you like it or not, they are the heart of this team. They have literally been through all of the successes. Like, that's why I hated Genie going. Because he's literally like, what did Jurgen Klopp say? He said it best. It was like, this Liverpool team was built on Genie Wijnaldum's legs. And I couldn't have said it better. In terms of a man who was there every single game, in terms of someone who was at least very consistent, might have not always brought the goals we wanted or whatever it may be, but he was Genie Wijnaldum, and he played many roles for us, and he was important in the biggest games. Like, that's why I don't think you get rid of these players, because they will be clutch players. They're more clutch than these younger, bigger talents, let's say. So I'd say keep them both, but if one was likelier to leave, I feel for some reason that Mane's time is closer. But I obviously hope that's wrong for many, many reasons, as I'm sure you'll know.
Yeah, it's so difficult to even contemplate any of these lads leaving, because let's be honest, what they've achieved, what they've done, what they've built, what they've sacrificed, and what they've given all of us as fans, we might not ever see again in our lifetimes, James. I know you're only a young lad, but
we'll never
I've been on this planet.
As this one.
I've been here 40 years, mate, and this is the best Liverpool team I've been. Now, it wasn't around for the 70s or whatever, but this is the best Liverpool team I remember. And look, we had a great season with Rodgers, 13-14. That was unbelievable. Didn't quite come off, but I still say that Luis Suarez season was beyond ridiculous what he did that year. There was a question in the chat, James, and I wanted to ask you, but I also want to comment on it myself. And it was, if Newcastle came in with an offer of 150 million quid for Salah, would you sell him? Firstly, I don't think Salah would go, because Newcastle aren't there yet. It doesn't matter how much money they have behind them. They're not going to be able to give him what he wants, which is challenging for trophies. At the very, they'll get there. Hope, we all hope they do all right. But right now, I wouldn't take the money, but I don't think he'd go either.
He definitely wouldn't go, and I wouldn't take the money. Because 150 million is not... What are you going to go and do with that? You're not going to go and buy Mbappe. You're not going to go out and buy Haaland. And you're probably going to go and buy 6 or 7 players, which, let's be real, we've done that before, never really worked out. If you're buying 6 or 7 players for a certain fee, it's just... What's the chances of all of them working out? Very unlikely. And what's the chances of one of them being as good as Salah? Because only 1 or 2 of them are going to be possible replacements for Salah, because you're not going to go and buy 5 left wingers. So... if you buy 1 or 2 wingers, what's the chances of them being better than Salah? Very unlikely, because Salah's literally the best in his position, like what I've just said, in my opinion. So there's no fee, I can't stress enough as well how important he is to the exposure of this club, the amount of eyes he brings to this club. No player is bigger than Liverpool, of course, but still, him being here is massively beneficial, like the way it's beneficial for United to have Ronaldo, even though they're still huge, like the way Son being at Tottenham, not necessarily they've got the huge factor, but Son does. Son has that huge factor. That's why he's so important to them. Messi at PSG, you saw the uproar that it created. It's important to have these stars. If you let go of Salah, you're just losing more than the goals and the creativity and the fact he's becoming a better player. You're losing that exposure as well, Craig, and that's why you can't ever let a player like that go. That's why you have to think about the likes of Firmino and Mane first before you think about Salah, because Salah's kept it going.
One player,
longevity's important, lad.
One lad who's been mentioned in the chat, and I think probably worth a conversation around, is Chiesa. Obviously went to Juventus. I think he's a 2-year loan, if my memory's right, at Juventus, with an obligation or an option to buy at the end of it. His father apparently wanted him to stay in Italy. In Liverpool were interested. There's been some stories doing the round, I think, from DiMarzio to say that Liverpool were interested in Chiesa before he went to Juve, but his father and himself wanted him to stay in Italy for the time being. What do you make of this kid?
I think Chiesa's amazing. I'm not going to lie. I've watched them a few times for Juventus last season, and I watched them the Euros as well. And from the group stages in the Euros, I was saying, wow, he is like a top-class player. I looked up his age and he's like 23. And I'm thinking to myself, how come I haven't heard about him earlier, or I haven't seen... Because in terms of his ball control and his ability to finish and find the goal, it's actually really, really impressive. And I think he'd thrive in the Premier League. I really do, because he's got the physical side to his game. He's quite a big player. He's like 6'1" or something like that. And he's a right winger. He's got pace. And I've just said he can finish. I feel like if you put him in a Liverpool team where he can play down the middle, he can play on the wings, that kind of suits our style of play. And to be honest with you as well, I think his attitude, I saw him against Manchester City and I saw the way he reacted when he scored and reacted when they won. His passion and his drive, I feel like he's someone who wants to win. I saw him when he won the Euros. That'd be perfect for us. You're probably going to have to pay a bit for him, but I think... you have the A-listers in terms of the wonder kids, don't you? The ones who get talked about, the Mbappes, the Haalands, the Felix. But that doesn't mean they're defo the best three. They might be for now, they might be the hot shit, but that doesn't mean they're defo the best three. Like, you might see the likes of Chiesa in years' time being talked about as one of the greatest of this generation. And that's why I think it'd be worth taking a punt. And they're the type of players we buy. Mane weren't the best in the league when we bought him. Salah weren't even Salah was thought of as a Premier League flop when we
Salah
bought
was that
Salah.
good we had to pay fucking extra for Alisson because
Yeah.
Roman knew what we'd done.
Yeah, they were like, fuck. They were like, we're just going to let go of another sick player. And even Alisson was worth every single penny. We could have paid 150 for Alisson. That would have been worth it. But yeah, like Chiesa, I think he's our type of profile. Does that make sense? Because he's not really like a mainstream player.
He's a bit of a shithouse as well, in a good way. I mean that in a complimentary way. Like
and in an Italian team, he will be.
You can see Firmino, you can see Jota, you can see him pressing, harrying down, defending from the front. He knows where the goal is, as you said as well. And I can absolutely see why Jurgen Klopp and Pep Linders were drawn to him and why they wanted to bring him into Liverpool, because he does have a Klopp style about him.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's a funny comment from, obviously, the channel there. I remember people asking why we've spent 36 million as Salah as a bench option. Salah came straight away in pre-season, started bagging, and then he just scored in every single game. And I'm thinking to myself, this Salah is on smoke here, mate. He's here to prove a point. Even I didn't see it coming. Really, I didn't. I thought he was going to be a decent player. Might get us 15 goals, which I would have took from a right winger. But I just never foreseen the masterclass that he displays season in, season out. And I don't want to just keep waxing lyrical about Salah. But I do think someone like Chiesa, if we were to bring him in, God forbid if Salah left, I'd be a little bit more sort of at ease knowing we've got ourselves a good young replacement. Because if we let Salah go, I just don't think it'll be now. I don't think Liverpool... Because we're talking about how we would react if he went. But let's be real, Craig. Do you think we're not going to give Salah a new contract? Because even as dumb as FSG can be, and I want to really emphasise the word dumb fucks. Like,
we have a great word in Ireland for an idiot, mate, and it's called Omadon. And I think it sounds...
Omadon to fuck, lad. Omadon to fuck. That's what these fools are, because the amount of mistakes they've made, I don't know about yourself, but I'm FSG out, and that, still stands. But even them, they can't let go. They know how important Salah is to Liverpool. Surely, yeah, I'm with you. Surely they look at the marketability, the shirt sales, the deliverance on the pitch, what he's doing. I mean, I know they don't like giving players over the age of 30 long contracts, but as I said earlier on, if you're ever going to break the rules, if you're ever going to shake it up for one person, this is it. This is the guy. I couldn't have said it better myself, my mate. And there's no one else in that team which... listen, if we lost Alisson, that'd be devastating. Lost Van Dijk, devastating. Fabinho, devastating. Thankfully, we've tied all these down to new contracts, so we don't even have to think about that. But they still don't bring off the pitch what Salah brings on. Not as much, not to the same level. You know what I'm saying? They have all became bigger players from being at Liverpool. Salah was already a massive player anyway. Do you get what I mean? And whether people like it or don't, he does bring a lot of eyes to the club. So that's just all the reason and more. And 300 to 350, that's worth it for me. That really, really is. I think what you said, if you're breaking the wage structure, do it for a player like that.
I agree. Look, ladies and gents, the hour's absolutely flown by. I better go and revisit the family. Want to say a massive thank you to James for coming on again.
Of course,
massive thank you to you guys. And also to our sponsors, Manscaped.com. Don't forget, you can check out the All-In Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped with free shipping, 20% off. with our discount code WFM20. James, any final words before it'll be next Monday before we speak to you next?
No, yes. So, thank you very much for watching this episode. Be sure that you smash a like if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. And, yeah, thank you for having me on again, Craig. It's been great. I'm going to go down, have some scran, and have a water, because in case you haven't noticed, my lips have been sticking to my teeth for the final 20 minutes of this, because I haven't had a water next to me. So I'm going to go and rehydrate myself. Stay hydrated, people. See you later.
Thorough professional. I love it, mate. Well played. Well played. Look, it's been great fun, ladies and gentlemen. Again, different background for me because I'm not at home, but I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you to James. Hit the subscribe button, drop a like on the video, and we will chat to you very soon. Up the motherfucking Reds.